There's a smell that clings to car dealerships. Not grease or gasoline. Those fade with the wind. I'm talking about history. A blend of leather, coffee, copier toner, and time. At Wayne Motors, it's soaked into every vinyl chair and carpet fiber. My name is Matt Wayne, general manager of Wayne Motors. I grew up breathing in the smell of this place from the moment Tony Wayne first handed me a sponge and said, "Make her shine like someone's dream car." That was 30 years ago, back when Josiah still wore braces, and I wasn't even a Wayne by name. Just a kid they took in after my mom, who worked accounting, passed away. Tony gave me work, then a bed, then a place at the dinner table. When he adopted me at 15, I thought I'd won the cosmic lottery. But today, standing in the glass-walled conference room overlooking the lot, watching Josiah adjust his cufflinks while Tony clears his throat, I realize how far luck runs before it runs out. "I'm retiring," Tony says, voice firm despite the sunspots across his hands. Effective immediately. There's a beat of silence, then applause, mostly from the managers. A few chuckles, some good-natured ribbing. Tony waves it off, raising both palms. "Save it for the barbecue." He glances my way. As of this morning, Josiah will take over as owner and CEO of Wayne Motors. The clapping gets louder. I smile happy. Tony continues, and Matt will remain as general manager. He knows the day-to-day better than anyone. Josiah turns to me, smile so thin it could slice glass. "Of course," he says. "Wouldn't want to mess with the smooth operations around here." There's laughter. Forced, maybe. Tony doesn't laugh. Outside, the showroom's quiet hum carries through the glass. Sales reps in blue polos usher couples from SUVs to sedans, voices muffled by insulation and distance. The next few days move fast. Josiah's first act is cutting the free oil change program. "Waste of margins," he says. Then he lets go of Janine, our receptionist of 12 years. Voice doesn't match the brand image. When I challenge him in the hallway, he barely stops walking. "She was family," I argue. He raises an eyebrow. "You're not even family, Matt. You were a project." I'm cleaning house. I follow him into the main office. "You think Dad built this place by treating people like tools?" Josiah rounds on me. "Dad built this place in the 80s, back when loyalty mattered and people paid sticker price. The world's changed. We adapt or die. By becoming predators." He leans in. "By becoming winners." The next week, I start noticing the pressure. Sales teams are pushing clients to sign on the spot. No more sleep on it weekends. Finance is encouraged to upsell even when it doesn't make sense. Perks are gone. Reviews dip. Morale cracks. And Tony? Gone fishing in Maine. Literally. A long-deserved retirement trip. No phone calls. No emails. It all comes to a head on a rainy Thursday. I'm called into the showroom at 3 p.m. Staff's gathered like it's some kind of announcement. Josiah stands on the tile stage near the Camry hybrid we just got in. "I've got an update," he says, clasping his hands. "We're entering a new phase at Wayne Motors. Aggressive growth, which means trimming inefficiencies." Then he turns to me. "Matt, you're no longer needed." I blink. "What?" "You're done. Effective immediately. Security will walk you out." Laughter dies. The entire showroom freezes. "You can't be serious," I say, heart pounding. "I am. You've been undermining leadership, poisoning the culture with old ideas." I scan the faces, Shane from parts, Tanya from service, even Malik in sales, who I train personally. They're too stunned to move. "This isn't your call to make," I say. "It is now," Josiah replies, handing a white envelope to the nearest guard. "You're off the lot in 5 minutes, or we call the cops." "You're firing me in front of the staff." My voice cracks. "After everything I've built here?" Josiah shrugs. You can't build what you never owned. The guard hesitates. I look at him, then back at the people I once called my team. No one speaks. Josiah's smirk grows. This is his moment. I take a breath. Then I nod. All right, I say. Let me grab my things. He waves a hand. Already boxed. I don't argue. Just walk across the floor, each step heavy, each glance like a goodbye. I don't cry. Not yet. Not until I'm in the parking lot, looking at the place I once called home through the windshield of my old Tacoma. Wayne Motors. A name I thought would always mean family. Turns out, names lie. But I don't. People expect you to grovel when you get fired. Beg a little. Lick your wounds. Not me. I left Wayne Motors with my spine intact and my pride in a cardboard box. By sundown that same day, I was sitting on a bar stool at Chaz's Diner, not nursing a drink, but a plan. Because while Josiah thought he'd humiliated me, what he really did was give me freedom and a motive. That night, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Randy Gerber, Green Mountain Auto Group. I said when he picked up. There was a pause. Then, Matt, you okay? I smiled. Never better. Got 10 minutes. Randy and I go way back. Green Mountain is the biggest supplier of used and certified pre-owned vehicles in Vermont. Hell, the entire Northeast. We used a joke. They were practically Wayne Motors' second engine. We met at a diner the next morning, right after sunrise. Steam rose from our coffee cups like fog, lifting from a battlefield. You're telling me Josiah fired you? Randy said, stirring his cup slowly. In front of everyone. I nodded, pulled the plug, and lit the match. Tony, no. He's off-grid. Josiah waited for the perfect time. Randy leaned back. He's been sniffing around third-tier wholesalers lately. Sketchy outfits in Jersey. Their VIN histories are cleaner than they should be. I figured, I said. You've seen a dip in Wayne's orders. 2 months now. Thought it was a strategy shift. It is, I said. A bad one. I slid a folder across the table. My plan. My counteroffer. I know your Northeast operations are stretched. I can fix that. I told him. I know your inventory system, your grading scale, your dealer network. Make me your regional distributor. Put me in charge of allocating inventory. He studied me. You sure you're not just looking for revenge? I'm looking for legacy, I said. Tony Wayne is my father, and I'm not letting Josiah burn his name to the ground. Randy took a sip. All right, let's make some noise. The deal moved fast. Within 2 weeks, I was wearing a different badge, working out of a clean, window-lined office up in Montpelier with a team that respected what I brought to the table. I didn't strut. I didn't send Josiah a letter. I just got to work. And work, in this case, meant reallocating inventory. Wayne Motors was still technically on Green Mountain's partner list, but I flagged every one of Josiah's new orders for supplier review, which meant delay, which meant cars didn't arrive, which meant customers walked. Josiah, of course, didn't call immediately. He tried to muscle through. Even ordered a fleet of certified SUVs from a no-name seller down south. 2 of them arrived with flood damage hidden under new carpeting. Then the phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave one. But the next day, right after lunch, I picked up when the receptionist buzzed me. It's Josiah Wayne, she said. Line 1. Says it's urgent. I stared out the window for a moment before pressing the button. Matt Wayne speaking. You son of a... What the hell are you doing? His voice was tight, enraged. Clarify. I said evenly. My inventory is frozen. You're sabotaging me. My lot looks like a desert. I kept my tone calm. I'm doing my job, Josiah. Regional distributor. Green Mountain Auto Group. Inventory approvals fall under my jurisdiction now. You think you're clever? He hissed. Blocking me out of the supply chain? I'm protecting it. Protecting buyers from shady vents and busted engines. Isn't that what we always said Wayne Motors stood for? You're bitter, he said. You couldn't take the heat, so you're lashing out. I smiled to myself. You fire me in front of a dozen people, Josiah. That was heat. This. I glanced at the order list on my screen. This is coal management. There was a long silence on the line. Then he chuckled, sharp and bitter. You think you've won something? I think I've reminded you what happens when you strip loyalty from a legacy, I said. And I think you're about to find out how long a dealership lasts without cars." I ended the call before he could spit another word. Over the next few days, Wayne Motors began to stall. Customers noticed the lack of new arrivals. Pre-owned inventory sat stale and overpriced. Salespeople whispered, confused. Josiah scrambled, trying to explain delays as strategic scarcity. But people in Burlington aren't stupid. They can smell rot when it hits the showroom. Meanwhile, I kept quiet. No press, no posts, just progress. I focused on making sure Green Mountain's other partners, dealerships that cared about transparency and trust, got what they needed. Still, part of me waited for the fallout. For Tony. For a message, a call, anything. It came in the form of a knock on my apartment door late one night. I opened it and found a familiar figure in a windbreaker, smelling faintly of lake water and diesel. "Tony Wayne, mind if I come in?" he asked. "Of course not," I said, stepping aside. He walked in slow, like his joints ached. Then he looked me in the eye. "I hear there's a storm in my house," he said, "and my sons are throwing lightning." I nodded. "It's not how I wanted you to find out." He sat on the edge of my couch. "Tell me everything." The smell of cedar had hit me before the door even opened. Tony always carried a scent like that. Woodsy, solid. The kind of presence you couldn't fake. Even when he walked slow, like now, you still felt the weight of him enter the room before his boots touched the floor. He hadn't called ahead, just knocked. And when I opened the door that night, the lines around his eyes looked deeper than I remembered. Maybe it was the long drive from Maine, or maybe it was seeing the disappointment in his own reflection, walking and talking in Josiah's face. "You want coffee?" I asked. He shook his head. "I want the truth." I led him to the kitchen table. My laptop was already open. I've been waiting for this moment since the day Josiah threw me out of Wayne Motors. Waiting not to take revenge, but to tell Tony what he deserved to know. He sat without a word as I pulled up the folder. "Start here," I said, sliding the screen toward him. Emails, purchase orders, meeting notes, all traced back to Josiah, all tied to one thing: a quiet, calculated plan to sell Wayne Motors to a national chain by the end of the quarter. Falcon Automotive Group, a massive network of dealerships that bought up family businesses and slapped their logo over the names. Tony scrolled slowly, eyes narrowing. He was negotiating behind my back. For months, I said. He was waiting until the old contracts expired. The supplier cuts, the layoffs, the perks, that wasn't tightening the belt. It was prepping for a sale, cleaning the books. Tony's mouth flattened into a hard line. He told Falcon the Wayne name had sentimental drag, that we'd be more profitable without the nostalgia branding. I pointed to the quote in the email. He was going to rename the place Falcon of Burlington. Tony didn't speak, didn't flinch. He just leaned back, staring at nothing. I could almost hear the weight of 30 years landing on his chest. He never cared about the legacy, I said quietly. Just the leverage. The silence held like a wire between us. Finally, Tony stood. "Call him," he said. We met in the conference room the next morning. Same place Josiah announced my firing. Now it was just the three of us. No applause. No crowd. Tony sat at the head of the table. I took a seat to his left. Josiah strolled in like he owned the oxygen in the room. "You cut your trip short," Josiah said. "Everything all right, Dad?" Tony didn't smile. Matt showed me the documents. Josiah paused, the cockiness flickering just slightly. Tony leaned forward. "Falcon Automotive. The sale. The renaming. You're going to sell the business out from under me." Josiah spread his hands. I was negotiating options, exploring value. "You were gutting it," Tony snapped. "Undermining the people who built this place with me. And you let him spin this." Josiah jabbed a finger toward me. "The adopted one." I kept my eyes on the table. He's been playing the wounded loyalist. Meanwhile, he's cutting off our inventory, sabotaging orders. I was doing my job, I said calmly. Protecting Green Mountain's network from bad actors. You were dealing with crooked wholesalers. Because you left a hole, Josiah shot back. This place can't survive on handshakes and free coffee anymore. I'm trying to make us competitive. Tony exhaled slowly. You think selling the name makes us stronger? It makes us relevant. Josiah said, "You're stuck in the past, Dad. This isn't a family anymore. It's a business. And you've coddled him like he's your legacy just because he's loyal. But he's not blood." That landed like a brick. The kind of thing you can't walk back once it's out. I felt it in my chest. That old ache I thought I'd buried. The reminder that I was always the outsider in some unspoken way. But Tony didn't look at me. He looked at Josiah. "You think blood earns you this business?" he asked quietly. "You think DNA makes you a son?" Josiah didn't answer, just shifted in his chair, suddenly aware he might have overplayed his hand. Tony stood, slow but firm. "We're meeting with Sonny tomorrow," he said. "You'll be there. So will Matt." "Wait, Sonny." Josiah frowned. "The lawyer?" "She'll lay out what comes next," Tony said. "Because after what I've seen, this isn't about who gets the keys. It's about who remembers what they're driving." Josiah stared at him. "You're siding with him." Tony turned to me. "I'm siding with the one who stood by the name." Then he walked out, the door swinging slowly behind him. Josiah and I sat there in silence, the hum of the fluorescent lights louder than either of us could speak over. He looked at me, jaw clenched. "This isn't over," he said. I met his gaze. "No," I replied. "It's just getting started." Sonny Rubio didn't waste time on pleasantries. She never had. We were seated in her office on Pine Street, surrounded by dense bookshelves and sunlight pouring through tall windows that somehow made even bad news feel official. Josiah sat stiffly across from her, wearing a blazer a little too sharp for a family meeting. Tony and I flanked her desk, he with his arms folded, me with a manila folder in my lap that I hadn't yet opened. Sonny tapped her pen twice on her legal pad and looked directly at Josiah. "You have 3 options," she said flatly, "and I'm going to spell them out clearly. No room for spin, no boardroom theatrics." Josiah gave a smirk. "Can't wait." She didn't acknowledge the sarcasm, just started. "Option 1, she said. "You remain majority controller of Wayne Motors. But there are conditions, non-negotiable. 1, Matt is reinstated as general manager with full operational authority. 2, you honor all existing contracts with Green Mountain Auto Group. No backdoor deals. No gray market suppliers. 3, you sign a non-sale clause preventing any ownership transfer for 10 years. Josiah's face twitched. "That's handcuffs," he muttered. "No," Sonny replied coolly. "It's what stability looks like." She moved on. "Option 2, you sell your shares to Tony and Matt at 70% of market value." Josiah opened his mouth, but Sonny raised a hand. "Before you object, your mismanagement, termination of long-term employees, and breach of supplier trust all constitute grounds for a discounted buyout. You'll walk away with cash in hand, no further say in operations, and no stake in the Wayne Motors brand moving forward." I could feel Tony shift beside me, but he said nothing. "Option 3, Sonny continued. You keep your shares, but you lose the Wayne name. You will rebrand immediately. You can operate under your own banner, but any use of the Wayne trademark, logo, history, or customer database constitutes infringement, and we will pursue litigation." Josiah laughed under his breath. "You're bluffing. You wouldn't kill the name over ego." Sonny leaned forward. "I'm not bluffing. We're preserving the name by protecting what it stands for. If you walk away, you walk without the legacy." The room grew quiet. Josiah stared at her like he was calculating, not listening. Then came the tantrum. "This is insane," he barked, rising from his chair. "You're letting him," he pointed at me, "swoop in with a hero complex while I get boxed out of my own family's business?" Sonny remained unfazed. "It stopped being your business the moment you try to gut it." Josiah's voice rose. "You can't enforce this. I'll sue for control. I'll drag this into court, and we'll see how long either of you can keep up this charade." Tony's voice cut in then, low, gravelly but cold. "Sit down, Josiah." He did, but with venom in his eyes. Sonny calmly flipped to another document. "You might want to read this before threatening legal action." She slid it across the table. "Tony's estate documents," she said. "Revised last year. You've probably never read the fine print, but I have." Josiah barely glanced at it. "There's a clause," she continued, that automatically grants Matt controlling interest in all Wayne family business holdings should any blood heir act in a way that intentionally jeopardizes the integrity or operation of said businesses. That includes sabotage, predatory sales tactics, and unauthorized third-party negotiations. Josiah's jaw locked. You buried it in Dad's will. I drafted it at his request, Sonny said plainly, because he saw this coming. I didn't speak. I wanted to, but I didn't want to gloat. It wasn't the time. The win wasn't clean. It wasn't satisfying. It was just necessary. Then Tony reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a printed email. I knew what it was. I'd found it last week while combing through supplier correspondence. It was the final nail. He unfolded it and slid it across the table toward Josiah. What's this? Josiah asked, staring down. Tony answered. An email from you to Falcon's regional director, outlining your plan to accelerate my retirement by end of year. Use his health scare to pressure a handover, you said. Play the stress angle. You even joked about getting him a cruise brochure. Josiah went pale. You were going to force me out, Tony said, and then rename everything I built. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. Josiah stared at the paper. His confidence was gone. What was left was raw, exposed ambition, the kind that, when cornered, turned cowardly. You had everything, Tony said, and you tried to burn to the ground because it didn't come fast enough. Josiah finally spoke. Quieter now. I didn't mean it like that. I was just. Tony cut him off. You meant it exactly like that. Sonny, clear your throat. You don't have long to decide. We'll need your answer by Friday. Josiah didn't respond. He just stood, adjusted his blazer, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he paused. This isn't over, he muttered. I looked up. No, I said. It's finally coming into focus. The door clicked shut behind him. Tony exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. Think he'll sell? I asked. Tony nodded slowly. His ego won't let him walk away without a check. We sat in silence as Sonny gathered the paperwork, and for the first time since I'd been escorted out of Wayne Motors, I felt like the story wasn't ending. It was just being rewritten. It didn't happen with fireworks or headlines, just a signature, a wire transfer, and silence. Josiah sold his stake on a gray Friday morning. Sonny forwarded the final documents, and within the hour, he was officially out. No farewell email, no press release, just a cold trail of paperwork that marked the end of his reign. I didn't celebrate. Not right away. Tony and I stood outside the dealership later that day, watching the staff pull down the old banner from the front fascia. The wind caught it as it came down, rippling like a flag lowered in surrender. Wayne Motors was no longer a fractured kingdom. Now it was ours again. Rebuilding wasn't glamorous. We hosted an all-staff meeting that Monday. I stood in front of 50 skeptical faces, some new, some old, and told the truth. I admitted we'd lost our way, that in chasing margins and volume, we'd forgotten the people who made us who we were. I told them we were going back to basics. No more scripted sales pressure. No more limited time offers that weren't really limited. We brought back coffee in the lounge, free first oil changes, and the birthday board behind the service desk. Small things, maybe, but they meant something. Tony started showing up more, coffee in hand, chatting with service techs and front desk reps like he used to. I found him in the lot one morning with a sponge in hand, helping an intern prep a car for delivery. He grinned. Can't leave from the showroom if you don't know what the pavement feels like. The reviews started shifting. Customers came in saying they'd heard something's changed. Some brought donuts. One woman dropped off a handwritten thank you card for letting her return a car after her husband got laid off. That's who we were supposed to be, not just dealers, neighbors. 2 months later, we held the reopening party, a Saturday barbecue. Nothing fancy, just burgers, music, and a ribbon cutting with too many balloons. The parking lot buzzed with old customers, staff families, and a few local reporters. The grill sizzled, the kids ran wild, and even the mayor showed up to shake Tony's hand. As the sun dipped behind the hills, casting golden light over the freshly waxed lineup of pickups and crossovers, I stepped up beside Tony on the temporary stage. He tapped the mic. Folks, he began, You've seen this place grow with me for over 3 decades. You've bought trucks from me. You've argued with me over trade-ins. And some of you," he pointed at Mrs. Goldstein, "have tried to bribe me with banana bread." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "But today's not about me," he continued. "It's about a man who stood by this company when it was at its weakest. Not because he had to, but because he couldn't bear to watch it fall apart. That man is my son." He turned and looked at me. "The son," Tony said, voice firm, "isn't just blood. It's who stands by you." The words hit harder than I expected. My throat tightened. I hadn't asked for that moment, but I'd waited my whole life to hear it. He motioned to the cloth-covered sign behind us. "Let's show him what's next." I stepped up, grabbed the cord, and pulled. The banner dropped away with a snap, revealing our new name. Wayne and Son, driven by trust. Just one son. Just me. The crowd clapped. Some cheered. I caught a few misty eyes in the front row. But off to the side, beyond the lights, past the food trucks, I saw a shadow leaning against a silver Lexus parked across the street. Josiah. He was dressed in dark jeans and a blazer, arms crossed, half in the shadows. Watching. Alone. He didn't move. Didn't wave. Didn't speak. Just watched. I wondered what he felt. Regret? Spite? Nothing at all. I wasn't sure. Maybe I never would be. What I didn't know was that he'd used his payout to open a new lot 2 towns over in New Hampshire. North Point Autos. Flashy website. Cutthroat deals. His version of a legacy. But it wasn't this. It wasn't ours. Tony stepped off the stage and nudged my shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, still looking at the Lexus. "Better than okay." He handed me a paper plate stacked with ribs. "Then eat something. Your new name's on the building now. Gotta live up to it." I laughed and finally looked away. The music picked up again. The crowd shifted toward the grill. Kids danced. The lights warmed the faces of the people who'd helped us rebuild. And Josiah? He was gone. Just like that. Wayne and Son thrived. Not because we reinvented the wheel, but because we remembered what it meant to hand someone a key and know they trusted us. Because we meant it when we shook hands. Because family, it turned out, wasn't just bloodlines and inheritance. It was the people who showed up, who stayed when it got hard, who built something, not just for profit, but for purpose. My name was never meant to be on the sign, but now that it was, I'd carry it like it was carved in stone. For Tony, for every handshake we honored, for the name that deserved to mean something again. Here's some questions for you, our viewers. Who do you think truly deserved to inherit the business? Matt or Josiah? Why? Have you ever felt more loyalty from someone outside your family than from your own blood? Share your story. What would you have done if you were in Tony's shoes? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell because we have more stories coming up just for you.